Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One Soccer Nation podcast. I'm your host, Kareem Rae. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a special guest, Jason Tedrow. Jason, thank you for being here. To kick things off, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. My name is Jason Tedrow. I'm the president and CEO of InProduction. We're the largest venue transformation event services company in North America. We build temporary infrastructure for large sporting events, concerts, um, ballroom transformation, and basically anything that you would need some temporary seating or hospitality for an event. We do a lot of work in for the PGA in events like the WM Phoenix Open. Well, we do a lot of work at building infrastructure and seating and hospitality at IndyCar races, colleges, Vegas F1, Austin F1. We do about 1,000 events a year, and I think anywhere you're at a large high profile event and sitting in a very nice suite or a comfortable seat, there's a decent chance that that's an in production product. So, and thank you for having me. This is great. I'm
So,
excited to do this.
thank you for taking the time. Just to share a quick backstory on how we connected quickly here. It was down at the USL Summit expansion event and connected with one of your colleagues down there in Washington, Spokane. And he connected us through via email and really taking the time. With saying that, we got connected through soccer, but you guys do a wide range of events. How big is soccer in that list? Are soccer vendors a top priority for you guys, or do we fall short under there?
Gosh, I mean, the reason we were at the USL meeting is, soccer is one of our fastest growing verticals and one of the most important partners that we have. And USL is a partner, within production. We're a preferred stadium supplier for the league. We have a lot of great relationships with teams and um, you know, uh, uh, kind of management over the overall USL. I mean, stadium work is really exciting for us. I mean, one of our fastest growing verticals is permanent, semi-permanent, and modular stadiums, both for college sports like football, like the temporary football stadium that we built at Northwestern on the shores of Lake Michigan. But also soccer stadiums and soccer in general is an incredibly important piece of our business. Some of our best projects that we built are soccer stadiums, and some of the most exciting projects that we have in our pipeline right now, kind of working through to the pipeline, are USL and WSL stadiums.
Nice. In regard, you mentioned club owners. Are club owners aware of the option of modular when they connect with you guys, or are they more focused on building a brick to mortar, and then once they connect with you guys, they're more open to the thought of modular?
Yeah, I think it depends on the venue. I think the idea of modular is becoming more prevalent in not just in soccer, but in all sports. I mean, if nothing else, just for the cost effectiveness, the speed, and I'm sure we'll get into all that later. But I think it's we've got some great relationships with teams with different owners. But also, I think the architects have really gotten on board. A lot of the architectural firms have gotten on board with, the benefits of modular, and as you see kind of as you go through the process of, let's say, building and developing your stadium, a lot of times the team brings in the architect brings in, the suppliers or makes the recommendations, and we're starting to see more of the architects getting on board with the benefits of and flexibility and cost effectiveness and speed of modular construction.
Understood. For a new USL ownership group starting today, what's the fastest credible path to opening day with modular, key milestones, and weeks per milestone?
It's one of those, my favorite answers is kind of it depends, right? I mean, you think about it, what we're kind of seeing is, during that path of from like, franchises awarded to opening day, there's a lot of steps that go into that, right? You got to get funding, you got to get approval from the city, you got to get approval for the land. And then once you have the land, you have to do all sorts of things like, environmental studies and things like that. And once it's a go, right, you then have to do the earthwork, get everything kind of graded, and then it's go on construction. So for us, the main milestones are, when we sit down and meet with a prospective team, depending on where we get involved in the process, we of course want to be involved on day one because we can really help with site design, layout, different options. So, we'll do anything from, we'll have a club call us and say, we're looking at these 5 different properties. What do you think? We want a stadium that's this big. Here's some locations. Can and then we can draw up what that would look like at different levels of capacity at each of the properties, work through it with them on what does egress and parking and all that look like, and help them with their site selection. Um, Once that's done and the site's selected and the property's graded and prepped and ready to go, I mean that's really where we step in, and that's where the value of modular really starts to shine. And I think, going back to your earlier question on are people aware of it, I mean those that aren't, once we do sit down and talk with them and we share things like our timeline, the budgets, and the flexibility of the design, those that don't know about it, they're always quite happy to learn about it because it's faster, it's more cost effective, and really what we're finding is it's much more flexible than brick and mortar. If you go to a we have some examples where we built a stadium. A team has played in a stadium for 3 years, and let's say they built a 5,000 seat stadium, and they decide they want to move to a different location. We can literally go in, dismantle the stadium, move it, put it up in the new location. And we've got examples where when we did that, we expanded the capacity. We went from 5,000 to say 7,500 seats. We gave them all new hospitality options as well as new press boxes. They played in that location and then we moved it again, right? So you can't really do that with brick and mortar and steel and rebar and things like that. So again, cost effective, speed to market, and just the flexibility of the design.
Absolutely. Well, there also is a cost to the movement though too, right?
Yep,
In order
absolutely.
so yeah,
Yep. Yep. Definitely is, but it's also if you want to move locations for whatever reason, it's definitely cheaper to tear it down, move it, and put it together than to have a stadium and then go buy a second stadium. So,
yeah. No, absolutely. So
yeah.
two big key takeaways for myself right now is cost effective and speed. Um, do you want to mention some of the clubs that you guys have worked with so far to date?
Yeah, there's a lot that we're working with. We're in more where we're in the planning phases and things like that. So probably not mention those there, but there's quite a few of those. But I think Phoenix Rising was a great is a great client of ours. Loudon United. We've got Hartford, and several others, and that's just in the soccer space. In college football, we built the University of Hawaii Stadium, the Northwestern Temporary Stadium. We're quoting probably 15 other stadiums. So it's. Oh, and then back to soccer, the Inter Miami Stadium, which is kind of a hybrid of modular and permanent with kind of modular above and then more concrete and steel underneath. But the Inter Miami Stadium was a wonderful project, one of the larger ones. So again, great project. But we love our partners in the USL and the soccer world for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to mention this too. I know I've said this to you already, but I want to just mention it online. I've been to that stadium before when I was a player. I think back in 2021 when I was playing with uh, Naples United FC in the NPSL, and I went down there to go watch a buddy of mine, Sean Hondo. He was playing for Inter Miami at that time when MLS was still involved with USL One, and they were playing Toronto FC, their second team. And that was the first time I went there. It was, 2021. And I didn't know it was modular, right? Like, this is when I didn't know anything
Mm.
about the soccer business world. I was still fresh, very, very fresh, like beginning stages of podcast for first year in. And I thought like that was like an official, like, brick and mortar stadium. I mean, the atmosphere was amazing, but, a few years later, and even now, every time someone says that, it's just the quality that modular can have is still great. Do you want to touch on that, Jason, in regards to the quality of modular stadiums?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah. First of all, I mean that was a wonderful commercial that you just gave for Modular Stadium. So I might just steal that and send that around to all prospective clients. But listen, I mean, the seats, the quality of the structure, the ability of the infrastructure to create something that feels permanent. I mean, that's really the beauty of modular. It's just come such a long way in over the last decade even. I mean, you're dealing with steel understructure, you're dealing with very nice high-end seats. Or, I mean, I guess that's the other angle. It's just the flexibility, right? Just like anything else, I can give you a really nice padded seat with a back and arms and a cup holder. I can give you a bench. We can do anything. We can do stand-up areas, for the supporter area. The supporter zones don't really want the nice padded seats. They want to stand up with a bar rail, and everybody can kind of get rowdy. So, when it comes to like just the quality of modular, I mean, it is, the way we engineer these things, the way they're reinforced, the quality of the materials that we're using. Again, this isn't this doesn't feel like a bleacher at your high school football game, right? These are legit, fully engineered um, structures that are, built for that space, built for purpose, built for that custom application. The quality is, and, I mean, I think the best example is, your comments around, the Inter Miami Stadium. That doesn't feel, temporary. And actually, we go into other stadiums, existing stadiums, and build temporary infrastructure. Sometimes either they want some additional infrastructure, or they want additional seating because of a big game, or maybe they're doing some, we're working with Penn State football this year. They're doing some construction on, in their football stadium. So we went in and put in, 9,000 temporary seats, and some of those seats are the best seats in the house, and really, really a nice use case for, the use of modular to solve any particular problem in the stadium. So.
Very nice. Um, curious question. Since you guys have worked with Inter Miami, are you guys involved in the new stadium that they're building as well, or
We're not. I think that one they went a little bit, more of a permanent type solution, which is also, a great option for that club. I mean, just the size and the exposure and the quality of that whole program. I think they went more of a permanent construction, and that makes a total sense for them, and versus, maybe the modular, makes sense for others.
understood? Switching gears, using Phoenix Rising as
Mhm.
model, what are the trigger metrics you watch to justify each phase? Attendance average, wait lists, sell through, and how fast can you add 1 to 2K seats to a stadium?
So, really, we take the lead from the team on, just like we take the lead from an event in terms of, what do you want to see in terms of, seats and things like that. I think typically what we see is, let me start back up for a second. One of the beauties of modular is the fact that you can go in and add capacity and change capacity and things like that. Because, if you think about it, if you're building a new stadium for a new club in a new market. It's a great way to build the fan base, right? I start with a 5,000 seat stadium, build up the fan base, build up the supporters. You're watching obviously attendance, season tickets, demand, things like that, and all of a sudden you start seeing like, hey, I've got a need for more product, right? I have certain golf events that I'll build. I had one event where we had these special, like, 20-person cabanas that we put alongside a par three, and we put in 12 of them, and they sold out in a weekend for, let's call it, $20,000. And then the client was like, this was a hit. This is the hottest ticket on the site. How many more can you build? So we went and put in another, 20 of these things. They raised the price, and we're able to sell those out as well. So again, it's kind of, we follow the demand. So, how quickly can we do it? I mean, we're building, massive golf tournaments in the matter of weeks and things like that. We build music festivals. I think about like the Austin City Limits Music Festival. We've got to get in a couple weeks and out in a week, for a 2-week music festival. So, speed is rarely an issue for us. It's more, usually if someone said we want 2,000 more seats, we would need to take a little bit of time, work with the client, do the site visit, do the engineering and see where we'd want to put it. Do you have an open end where we can just put up a set of seats, or do we need to build it on the existing structure, in which case we would need to do some different designs and some different engineering and things like that. But this is something that certainly can be accomplished, in season, on a break, on a long road trip, something like that. If you think about it, the Northwestern University Stadium was 14,000 seats, and we built that in about 65 days. So, certainly, can react quickly to an increase in demand. Or let's say hypothetically, there's another use case would be, let's say you have a stadium that's got 10,000 seat capacity, and you're hosting a playoff game for the first time, or you're hosting the final or something like that, and you want to add seats. We do that all the time in different arenas. So we go in and add capacity either by building a large bleacher, or adding on to what's there. And then we add that additional capacity for, one or two games, and then we take it out because, maybe the stadium needs 15,000 seats for the playoffs, but only needs 10 the rest of the year. So we can do that. That's the beauty of modular and the flexibility of modular.
That's amazing. I mean, 65 days is fast. What would you say are, frequently asked questions that clients usually ask you guys? Like, what would you say are the top three that come up?
The top three, I would say, I mean, the first one usually is around cost, right? Like, because that's, that is that can be such a big, point of differentiation between, permanent construction and its cost. What's it going to cost and how fast can we do it? And then the third thing is, especially for newer clubs and newer programs and in new markets, it's, what else do I need to know, right? Like, how many acres do you need for the site? How many acres do you need for parking? What do you need for, what's the solution for bathrooms, locker rooms, concessions, um, merchandise tents, ticketing? Hey, what if I want to do something where, I, what are my different options for hospitality? Hey, can I add things on later? So it's really it's cost and timing, and then it's all those different design elements that, things you just don't think about until you're really trying to build the actual infrastructure. And then how we can help is also like, hey, how do you want to think about the use of the stadium when it's not used for soccer, for example? Like, do you want to have concerts? How should we think about that? Do you want to host other types of events? How should you configure the seating, potentially to support these other events? And then finally, I would say, do you want to leave room for expansion, right? Or do you want to go all in and build your 12,000 seat stadium now? Or do you want to think about it in a phased approach? I have another client, for example, that in kind of like minor league baseball type arena where we, um, we have a 4-year plan where we're phasing in their stadium as the area around the stadium grows. It's the same kind of thing with, when you think about design, don't just think about day one, think about, hey, this is going to be successful, it's going to grow. How should I think about, you know, designing it now so that we can easily add on to it later? So cost, timing, and then all those design elements would be, grouped into the third question there.
But I mean, speaking with architects on the podcast that I've had on, HOK, Labella Associates, O Sports. I think they've all mentioned the importance of having a great atmosphere. So starting with the
Mm.
smaller size, whether that's a 4,500 seat stadium, 5,000 seat stadium, selling that out, right? Having an amazing experience, giving the fans an amazing experience, and then potentially expanding out because you have that demand and you've already given your fans a great experience, where now you need to grow. So I think that's extremely important. I mean, that's been a big thing I keep hearing, especially from the club ownership side. I think the first person to mention that to me on the club ownership side was Warren Smith, um, and what they're doing and with the Ozark United FC. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Um, and and obviously you guys have been doing it for years. I wanted to ask you this earlier on. I forgot to ask it, but how long has In Production been around?
So in production, as in production has been around since 2015. So this is our 10th year. We are kind of we've consolidated a few different companies in the event space to create in productions. SGA Production Services in 2015 was the first acquisition for in production. TMB Equipment in 2016, Communalux in 2017, and then the Seating Solutions in 2019, right before COVID. Um, so these individual companies have been around for several years, 30, 40 years in this space. So, and each one of those acquisitions brought a different level of expertise and experience to what we can offer, right? So TMB was traditionally a heavy, golf, supporting golf and events like that. SGA Production Services was more, corporate, kind of transformation of ballrooms for big corporate events and things like that, but also a little bit of stadium work. Like, we put in 17,000 temporary seats in the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium for the Florida Georgia game every year. Um, and then Seating Solutions brought us into other sports like racing and tennis and things like that, like the Miami Open. We put a bunch of temporary, we essentially renovate Hard Rock Stadium every year to support the Miami Opens. But we've been around as InProduction for about 10 years, and just every year continuing kind of to push the art of the possible and what we can do in these different venues.
Absolutely. Um, the Hard Rock Stadium's nice.
It's
Um,
very cool.
Very nice. Yeah, I was actually there this year for Inter Miami against an Egyptian team, Al Hilal, if I remember the name correctly. I think they had about 65,000 fans for FIFA Club World Cup. Got a chance to see Messi, Suarez, Sergio Busquets. I think Jordi Alba could have been there.
It's not a
I
bad day.
Not a bad day, Jason. I'm not. I never thought in my life that I'd see Messi in the flesh playing. It was never on the list because I didn't know it was going to be a thing for me. It was just a spontaneous thing. I was in Miami for Confoot, and my buddies were like, "Hey, let's go catch the game." I was like, "There's a game going on today," and they're like, "Yeah, let's go.
That's
Let's take it."
kind of a big game to go to.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was cool. It was
That's
really
awesome.
cool. No, that's amazing. So also wanted to ask is like, when clients bring you guys in early, what are the three site variables, whether it's like footprint, ingress, egress, utilities, most often make or break modular feasibility? And how do you test fit before owners spend on design?
Great question. So, the folks like, HOK and like, of course, Labella is really, is one of the groups really, leading the charge from the architect side on modular and even just the site design in general, these stadium designs in general. I would say, the biggest thing is just, first of all, it's size. It's got to have the right size, right? So, and when you think about size, it's not just the stadium and it's not just the seating and expansion opportunities in the stadium. It's parking and it's everything else. So the biggest thing is we're kind of relying on the architects and kind of the local municipality to kind of make sure that they kind of put the green light on this can work from a environmental standpoint, from an ingress egress standpoint, from traffic and flow and congestion and things like that. For us, the biggest thing is just, it's the size of the site. We need to make sure we've got enough room to lay it out properly to expand. I mean, I would say, what in every project that we do, be it a concert, a golf tournament, F1 race, a NASCAR race, anything like that. Every project we do is custom for that event, for that venue, for that space that they want to have the seating. So, for us, what we would do once the sites are either selected or at least narrowed down to the short list, we would go in and do a somewhat of a high level design and what how we would lay it out and what it would look like, and even as simple as dropping it into a Near Maps or a Google Maps or something like that, and share that with the client. And hey, here's what it's going to look like. Here's the size. Based on your size constraints, here's your capacity. Right. So that is the conversation we have more often than here's a 10,000 seat stadium and it'll fit anywhere. It's usually more, hey, here's the site I'm working with. What does that mean from a capacity standpoint? And then we can, work with the different designs and we do all that work up front, as a partner to the architect or to the team or to the league. And then we start getting, as we say, okay, this is the site, we're going to move forward, or it looks like we're going to move forward. Then we start getting into more of that detailed design and engineering and actually putting together the detailed drawings and the 3D renderings and things like that to get people excited.
Yeah, those are the best ones. Those
Yeah.
renderings that we see.
Yes.
And USL has been announcing a lot of renderings on LinkedIn. I see, like, I keep saying this. I got to stop saying it, but like, I feel like every week I see a new rendering. um, no, they're looking great though. So, just another question here. Like, what's the ideal split of responsibilities? I know you've mentioned some already, but among in production, and the architects, for example, Abella, that to keep design intent tight and change orders minimal.
It's a great question. So with any good project, it all starts with, a really clear, concise, detailed scope. So, the best way to avoid confusion is through clarity, right? Upfront, here's what we're looking for. Here's what we and that goes both ways. It's the club, the architect, my designers, our builders, things like that. So, I find the more time that we spend together up front, the more time we spend designing this, the more time we spend lobbing ideas back and forth, the more time we spend on site doing the site visit, out there with the measuring tape and uh, making sure we're verifying everything. That's how you avoid the change orders. You have that clarity and you have a plan, a long-term vision. Is this a one shot? We're building a 15,000 seat stadium and that's it? Or is this a phased in approach where we're going to go 5, 7, 10, 12? Then we all agree on what that detailed phased in, looks like. But, when you're dealing with folks like, we'll use Labella again, and Christian over at Labella, and he's one of the leading voices for this. I mean, they understand what it's going to take to be successful. So what's the division of responsibilities? They're coming up with a site location. They're coming up with an idea of the design and what it should look like, and then my guys are taking it from there and actually putting our equipment in there and putting our seats and our understructure and our egress and how are we handling ADA and actually getting to a level of detailed design. And then we send that to a third party engineer to do all the verification of the calcs and the stamping and everything like that, because you never want your builder checking their own work. And then we go right. And then as far as what we contribute in terms of the build, it's we can do as much or as little as the client wants, right? You want me to provide restrooms and locker rooms and concession and lighting? Sure, I can do that. Or I could simply give you the name of, here's the best lighting supplier and vendor in North America. You call Musco and you can save my markup, right? Or something like that. So some clients, it's more, look, I want you to handle everything and just hand me the keys when it's done. Other clients are very cost conscious and they're like, hey, how can I shave a couple points off this, off the build? And sometimes that's, with them going direct to some suppliers. And again, at the end of the day, we're successful when the job is successful and the project's successful. So we're very collaborative during that in terms of division of labor. We'll do as much or as little as you want us to do.
Nice. Um, Switching gears here, Jason, I want to ask you, what would you say is like the hardest part about the work that you do?
Boy, that's a great question. Just one clarification. You just mean in general stadiums, in general, just event support,
But
all the above.
I would say like the first thing that comes to mind, like what would you say is the hardest thing with the work that you do?
So at the end of the day, we have a we'll figure it out culture. So one of the hardest things that we do is we get tasked with some impossible, crazy, very, very cool opportunities to do really neat things, right? I mean, I'll go back to like we build a stadium around a 163-yard par three at the WM Phoenix Open every year. It fits 18,000 people. That is the coolest thing. And it should just be an impossible ask. Hey, build a stadium out of this. Northwestern football stadium. Hey, we need a 14,000 seat stadium in less than 3 months. That is, so when you say what's the hardest is like, uh, I would say almost nothing that we do is the same as anything else that we do. The concepts are the same, the equipment's the same, the builders are the same, but everything is different. Everything is nuanced. So we say it's hard, it's challenging, but it's fun and it's meaningful. And when you go to an event and you see, 200,000 people at an event, just happy to be there. And um, was it P.T. Barnum said, the noblest art is that of making others happy. And you kind of see, what you've helped build with your partners and the team. I mean, that's incredible. So what's our hardest thing? Everything's different and everything's unique, and you have to bat 1,000 on every project. You have to. No one's gonna. Oh, my tickets. For today. Well, we're not done yet. Can you come back tomorrow? That's just not an option. So we figure things out. We're an outdoor sport. We're working in the rain. We're working in rain, shine. Snow, sleet. We've got to get the job done. So it's definitely but it's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly meaningful, and I'm very, very lucky that I get to work with the best team in the space with some incredible clients building just impossible projects, and it's just so rewarding to go home, turn on the TV, and see what you did is on TV the next day. With everybody there having a great time. So I hope I answered your question. I think yeah, but that's it.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And like just the curious question for me, to give some inspiration to anyone young listening in, that hasn't they haven't started their career yet and they're, deciding to go to college, university, you know, what, can you kinda give them inspiration in regards to, like, what your day-to-day looks like, some insight?
One of the things I love about my job is my day to day is so every day is different, right? I mean, um, in my particular role, if you think about it, um, I've got 650 people in the business. And that's 650 families that are depending on us to make sure that we're, you know, meeting with great clients and coming up with awesome jobs so that everybody can, you know, um, continue to work every day on these projects. So I'm very client facing. We do a lot with our clients. On a day to day, you could be, today I left a call on a computer system upgrade that we're doing for the team with my staff and our board. We do a lot of client facing, meetings. I had two of those today. The opportunity to meet with folks like yourself, and talk about in production and our products. Um, we do a lot of hosting at events. It's one of the benefits of having such really cool, events that we get to build. I'll be in 2 weeks. We'll be at the Vegas F1 race. In February, we'll be at the Phoenix Open. In April, we'll be at the Masters. So my day to day, it's really different. But at its core, what is it? It's dealing with people. It's solving problems, coming up with solutions. Finding new and creative ways to support our clients. I mean, everything I do every day kind of boils down to that. Be it super tactical and dealing with our open enrollment for our employee benefits coming up in a couple weeks, to negotiating the massive largest contracts we've ever done with the company, and everything in between. So what I would say is, it's certainly not boring. It's same. You don't do the same thing every day, and I'm incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do.
Yeah. And last question before I switch gears again, what advice would you give to to young individuals that want to work in, your position one day? What advice would you give to them?
I would say kind of taking industry away from it for a second, right? My two favorite pieces of advice, I think it was Richard Branson said, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you don't know how to do it, just say yes and figure it out. I think to me, like that, I've kind of approached my whole career that way. Just for the record, Richard Branson didn't tell me that. I read it somewhere. But if you get a great opportunity, just take it, man. Just figure it out. Um, and the second one, I think it was Barack Obama said, I saw an interview once with him and he said, just be somebody who can get things done. If you're somebody who can get things done, no matter how big or small that is, you will always, be sought out for opportunities. You will be so far ahead of the curve if you're just like, the person who sits back and says, it's not my job. I'm not really into it. I'm kind of tired today. I don't really feel like it. I have no use for that person, honestly. And I think, most folks in, leadership would say the same thing. If you're somebody that's like, hey, I got a problem. I don't know how to fix it, but what do you think? Can you help me out with this? And you're like, I'll figure it out. I mean, that's the kind of person you want to be around, right? So no matter what industry you want to go into, if you're taking these stretch roles, figuring things out, you're displaying grit, you're grinding through things, and you're just somebody who says, I'll figure it out and get it done. That's the kind of person that you want in your business. That's the kind of person you want to be around, right? I think me personally, I like to attract folks that are it's Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player. The ideal team player is humble, hungry, and smart. You show me somebody who's humble, hungry, and smart. My goodness, they're going to be successful. As far as getting involved in the sports industry, there's lots of different paths. I mean, starting out in it's like sports marketing, getting involved in different leagues, getting and taking the first job, right? Like a lot of times you see folks coming out and getting into the ticketing space, right? They're helping sell season tickets, and then, or maybe they're an intern at a group putting on an event, or if you want in the space, that the industry is relatively small, and if you just get in, do a good job, build your network, take on new responsibilities, be somebody who can get things done, you're going to get opportunities. So yeah, the unique thing is too, it's there is no one path. You just kind of figure it out.
Yeah. No, that's great insight. Thank you so much. Um, Switching gears, if a club plans to move or upgrade within 3 to 5 years, how do you engineer reusability and resale value in today's build so assets keep working or appreciating over multiple sites?
So the beauty of the equipment that we use in these events, I mean, they're the steel is 20-25 year life. I mean, so we build these structures for longevity. We build them so they're not considered consumable. We build them as if they're going to be around for a very long time, even if it's simplistic. We still have seats in our inventory from the Atlanta Olympics that are used on different projects, right? So I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, another benefit of using modular is just the sustainability aspect of it all. We have several deals that we've written in. If you want to upgrade your stadium, or do you want to do something different? We have clauses where we'll buy things back for a certain price or something like that. Or because honestly, the same infrastructure you're using for the understructure for a soccer stadium, you could be using at a golf tournament, or for you know a seating system at a baseball game, or a college football game or something like that. So the sustainability, reusability, those factors are very high when you think about modular infrastructure.
Amazing. Um, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share?
Boy, that's a great question. They've all been good questions. That's a really good question. Um, when we were catching up beforehand, you mentioned kind of the word future proofing, which I really liked. So, I think when you think about designing something for a club that hopefully is going to be around for decades, right? How do you future proof the investment you're making today? And you do that by kind of having a very disciplined, logical, thoughtful plan for expansion and growth. Understanding your market and how big can it be, right? And let's make sure that we're not landlocking ourselves um, at a 5,000 seat stadium when, boy, the market's hungry and you're probably going to need 15 at some point. So I guess maybe the bigger concept, and I love the phrase you use, and I'm gonna steal it and call it my own, is just how can we future proof your solution so that you're protected every step of the way in terms of your investment is going to generate a great return. You've got an opportunity to scale as the club grows. And let's say for whatever reason you want to relocate to a different place, you're protected as well, because we can go in, we can dismantle the stadium. We can sell you a different stadium. We can do something else with these pieces, things like that. So, I would say, you know, um, I guess one thing would just be, the importance of future proofing your thoughts around your stadium. Two, I think would be, I just think uh, one thing that I've noticed, especially in the soccer space and in the stadium space, and we really didn't touch on this much, is just the unique relationships, and they're so incredibly positive, between the league, the city, the team, the architects, and the suppliers. I mean, it's such a cohesive relationship that is really unique, I think, in the USL space, and the way USL leadership is so collaborative, and bringing these groups together for educational type things, like learning about modular stadiums or other things. The way that the cities and the investors work hand in hand, the way that the architects are pulling in the builders and things like that. I think it's really I think it's a real model for other groups to follow, that just the way that it all comes together is really impressive. It's fun to be a part of.
Very connected.
Hmm.
With saying that, the last question I have is, how can clients connect with in production?
Oh, I love that. We have I think we have a pretty robust website that we have lots of different pieces of our work. One of the best things about our projects are just showing the pictures, right? I think this is one of the first conversations I've had where I haven't gone through 100 different pictures of cool builds that we've done. But we've got all that on our website. I would love to talk to someone directly if someone wants to connect with me. I'm at jtedrow at inproduction.com. Email me directly. We'll get you to our team. We've got, I think we have a lot of information on our website. Go there. Reach out to me directly. We'll definitely be able to help. This is an area where we've had a lot of success. We've got a lot of great ideas. We've got a lot of different options for different solutions, and we're ready to help.
Amazing. Well, we'll add Jason's information down below in the description for you guys to reach out to Jason. Jason planting some seeds here on the private side of One Soccer Nation. Hopefully, in the future, we'll work together on the
That'd be
club
awesome.
side. But with saying that, once again, I truly appreciate you taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
Thanks, Kareem. Appreciate you.